minister gets a new horse, decides to train that horse to gallop with the words, "Thank God." And then to have it stop with the words, "Divine power." So one day he's out riding with the horse. Tree falls, the snap of the branches and everything spooks the horse takes off. The horse is flying, and the minister panics, and he's trying to remember what was the stop word, and he's yelling this, he's yelling that. Nothing's working, and he's getting closer to a cliff. And so now he's getting really scared and panicking even more, and he's yelling this and yelling that, and finally he says, "Divine power," and the horse stops a foot from the edge of the cliff. So in his relief, he says, "Thank God." Okay, remember receptivity prayer. Where is it? Up, there we go. I am open to the evolution of my soul. I am open to the evolution of my soul. My mind is alert. My heart is receptive. My next step is here and now. We did it! Okay, good. All right. See, bigger sign. That's what it took. My talk for today is you've got hidden treasures. And you know, it's easy to get stuck thinking that you've reached the level you're going to reach. And that you have no more to give because you're too old, you're too young, you're not talented enough, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough self-esteem, you weren't raised right. But no. There is a hidden treasure in you that you have yet to mine. There is always more going on. There is always more, something else to bring to life. Because you are a unique human being. No one was born with the same gift that you have to bring. Now, it may look similar to others' gifts. Like if you're an actor and there are other actors, if you're a comedian and there are other comedians, but nobody is bringing yours. The mold was broken when you were born. But the deal is you have to be willing to mine that hidden treasure. You have to be willing to go deep within yourself and leave no stone unturned to find it. If you have a dream, no matter what that dream is, you have been given every resource necessary to achieve the dream, no matter what age you are. If you have the dream, it's yours to bring forth, and no one has that dream exactly the way you do. You have everything you need, but it may be hidden. You may not see it. No one around you may see it. My son Isaac. I love my son. When he was a toddler, when we were riding in the car, we'd have the radio going, and he loved to just sing out to the songs on the radio. He was tone deaf. So he'd be in the back singing away, and I'd be in front trying not to laugh or trying not to look too tight around the fact that my son was so off-key, so distant from what actually was being played that it was painful. And this went on for years. Finally, I guess somebody, and I, being the loving dad, never said to him, "Don't sing." I never encouraged it either. Just so we're clear. So he finally stopped at some point, and it was like, okay, good. He has other gifts. I know it. Well, at 14, he comes to me and says, "I want to be a singer-songwriter." And me being the supportive dad I am, I went and bought him a guitar. And he got the guitar, and he got up into his room, and because he's tone deaf, he could not tune it. So I'd go up there, tune it for him once in a while, and he'd be up there singing, trying to hit a note and then sing the note he hit, and he was nowhere close. But he was up there every single day. Every day, I'm downstairs listening to him upstairs, playing something that was out of tune and singing even more out of tune. And then once a week, he'd want to come downstairs and play for me his progress, of which there was none. But I'd sit there and go, good, good. And say, keep it up, where in the back of my mind, I'm going, please don't keep it up. But he did. And 2 years later, he comes downstairs and says he wrote a song. And I'm like, great. And he sits down to play it for me. And his guitar was in tune. I'd bought him a tuner. So his guitar was in tune. And he hit about half the notes in key. I'd never heard him hit that many. Now, his lyrics were always pretty good. But now, and he had kind of a melody. It was almost a melody to go along with it. But it was closer, and I was like, great, okay. So he goes back up there and keeps at it and keeps at it. And by the time he was 18, he was writing and singing songs that were brilliant. It was unbelievable. Talk about a miracle. Talk about a hidden treasure, right? I didn't see it, but somehow he did. Somehow he believed in himself enough to know that somewhere in him, since he had that dream, he must have the wherewithal to make it come forth. And then a couple of months ago, I get a call from him. He lives up in San Luis Obispo, and he says, I got a band. Come up and see it. Ash and I went up the first time when it was just him and a drummer, and there were about 75 people there jumping around, dancing and singing his songs because they're so good. A couple of months ago, I go up there. He has a full band. There are hundreds of people at the place jumping up and down and singing his songs because they're that good. He's heard from Sony Records. Talk about a hidden treasure. I went around thinking if I supported him enough, he'd finally get the sense to quit and find his true gifts. Instead, I'm the one who came to my senses, realizing if you have a dream, you must know what it is, have the resources to do it. And so that's what he did. He brought forth this incredible resource, this really hidden treasure. I mean, that thing was hidden. I didn't have a clue that any of that was in him. And yet he rose up and did something. And here's the other part about it. I wasn't the only one who got to see him through that whole process. His friends did too. And many of them were inspired by him. So he got to inspire people by bringing forth his hidden gift. You have this in you. You have a hidden treasure that you don't even know you may have. And yet, if you have a dream, you have the treasure to do it. If he can, believe me, anybody can. So it's just a matter of bringing it forth. It's a matter of making it real for yourself. There is a higher knowing in you. There is something, there is something so special about each and every one of you. And the thing about when you bring it forth, when you stop letting those thoughts and doubts say to you, no, I can't do this. No, I'm too old. My life's done. Or I'm too young. Nobody's going to take me seriously. Or I'm not tall enough. Or I'm too short. Or whatever it is you let get in your way. No, if you have the dream, that hidden treasure is in you. You just got to work at it. You just got to be willing to dig down and get it up. Because as we know in this teaching, first you believe, then you know, then you embody, then it shows up. But you got to start out believing. You got to start out believing that you got what it takes. You got to be telling yourself that. I got what it takes. I got everything I need to make this dream come true. It may not look like it. The place, it may look like I got no talent in this at all, but I must since I have the dream. It's got to be there. And the thing also about it is once you start digging it up, once you start believing, there's even something else there for you that's even greater. I used to ride a motorcycle. And when I had this motorcycle, one of my things was I got to take this thing to 100. Just once. Just take it to 100. So the day came, I'm out on the highway, no cars or trucks anywhere in sight, very straight road, and I'm going, okay, today's the day. And so I start revving that thing, and I'm going down the highway, 85, 90, 95. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm at 130. I mean, the thing just kicked into a gear I didn't even know the bike had. And I'm flying down the road, and I'm like, whoa! And I let up, and I slowed back down, and everything like that. And what am I getting at here? That's actually what happens with your dreams. When you believe in them enough, and you dig in there enough, sooner or later another gear kicks in that you didn't even know you have. You could be just dragging along, and then all of a sudden, boom, takes off. And you don't get to decide in your conscious smaller self when that happens. You have a higher self that has given you a divine purpose, that has given you a gift that no one else on the planet can give but you. And when you believe in it enough and you get out of your way, that's when it starts to show up, and that's when things can start to happen. A movie just got made about Freddie Mercury called Bohemian Rhapsody. It's going to be released. And I read an interview with the guy who got the part, who got to play Freddie Mercury. And he was funny. He goes, when I first was told I got the part, he was like, oh boy, I got the part. And then he thought, oh boy, I got the part. And doubted for a moment his own talent that he could actually play such a legendary figure as Freddie Mercury. And then, when the movie was done filming, and it hasn't been released yet, but will be shortly, the guitar player from Queen went up to him and said his performance brought tears to his eyes. It so reminded him of Freddie. When you are willing to dig down, when you are willing to go into yourself and bring forth that which is yours to bring, you have the hidden treasure. And the thing about dreams, which is so funny, is you can try to ignore it. You can try to belittle it. You can try to tell yourself, no way, it's too late. But it was lit by the divine. That dream you have was given to you and lit by the divine. So you can work as hard as you want to try to put out that fire. But it's going to keep at you. You're going to feel that stirring, and if you feel that stirring, then you have the hidden treasure to make it come true. If you have a stirring in you, you have the treasure. It's yours to dig up, and the deeper you dig, the better the chance you have of it coming forth. And it will. It has to. That's how it works. This is divine birthright. This is your destiny. Each and every one of us is special. Each and every one of us has that opportunity to bring something forth that we might not even know we had. There was a private, where is it? Desmond Doss, that was his name. Private Desmond Doss, World War II. He was a conscientious objector, because he was very religious and believed in the commandment that says, thou shalt not kill, but was a patriot, so wanted to serve. But because he was a conscientious objector, he was given all kinds of labeling around being a coward and given an incredible hard time at boot camp because he refused to pick up a gun. He wouldn't do it. He became a medic because he wanted to serve. And they sent them out to the Pacific. And in the Pacific, the Japanese targeted medics because they realized if they killed the medics, it would lower the morale of the rest of the men. And the medics all had big crosshairs on their helmets. And so they were targeted. And so the medics carried guns to protect themselves, except him. And everybody thought he was crazy. And then there was this huge battle. And he got the 2 bronze medals for carrying 75 men, wounded men, in the midst of the battle, with bullets raging everywhere, with bombs blasting everywhere. This guy went back and forth 75 times to save 75 wounded men in one day during one battle. When he was asked about it, he said, I didn't know I had the strength. I just did what was before me to do. It wasn't long after that he was in another battle where a grenade blew up his leg. He would not allow, because the battle raged for 5 hours, anybody to come save him until the battle was over. He stayed with it, took care of himself, stayed alive, and is the only conscientious objector to ever win the Medal of Honor. Sometimes what brings forth your hidden gifts is the circumstance. Sometimes you're thrust into something, so you got to be ready. You got to be ready to know. You know, the only difference between heroes on the battlefield and those who are not heroes on the battlefield are those who are willing to let their hidden treasure rise. Because we're all special, and we all have that hidden treasure in us. So it takes that special sense of knowing about our own character, our own treasure, to let it rise when the time comes. I have one more story for you. It's about a woman who was born with a birth defect. Something happened in childbirth, and she was born with a brain problem. She couldn't think right. Some people called her disabled because she didn't have a very high IQ, couldn't remember much, and couldn't do much. She had 9 siblings with a dad who was a miner, lived in a town that, where they're impoverished, basically, and had to struggle her whole life just staying at home with her parents because she didn't really know much and couldn't do much. When she was 48, both her parents had died. And for the first time in her life, she had to live alone. She didn't have a job. She didn't know how she was going to make money. But she did have a dream. And so she thought, even with her limited thinking, that she didn't know what else to do. Her thing was singing. So one day, she decides to go to another town. She had never left her town. She had never even gotten on a bus before in her life, especially not alone. So she heard about this audition. She tries to get there, gets on the wrong bus, takes her 6 different buses to finally get to the audition, gets there just in time to actually walk out on stage. And when they saw her, because it was the show Who's Got Talent, the audience snickered and said, and even the judges were like, really, you're going to sing for us today? And she just said, yeah. And then Susan Boyle changed the way we think about life itself. Her voice changed the world. She knew she had a hidden treasure and just moved forth. Others thought of her as disadvantaged, disabled. Well, she doesn't have to worry about making a living now. And she travels quite a bit. I hear around the world. This is what's possible if you're willing to mine your hidden treasure. You got to get in there. You got to first know it. You got to believe it, then know it, then embody it. You got to keep at it and not let anybody talk you out of it. You have a treasure in you. Let it out. Let it rise. Let it percolate. Let it come to the surface. You are not too short. You are not too tall. You are not too young. You are not too old. You are a magnificent masterpiece of the divine. And you have a hidden treasure. I love you. All right, take out what you're going to give. Hold it in your hand. Don't crumple it up. You got to uncrumple it. All right? No crumpled bills. This is God. You uncrumple it, you hold it in your hand, and you know this as the action and energy of the divine because it is, because you're divine. You are putting your energy into it, and it already has that energy because this is how we get the law of circulation going. This is how life works. When we put out, it returns to us multiplied abundantly. But you got to hold it in your hand and know it. You got to know that this is God in action. Let's say our affirmation together. God is the source of all supply. Money is God in action. What we give, we receive multiplied abundantly. All that God is, I am. And so it is.